Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas. Hank, how are you doing today?
Well, it's a new week, so I'm going to have to look for a rebounding week, and just like a lot of teams in the league are going to be doing that. Teams like Dallas and New England and
New Orleans.
teams that didn't produce last week who are coming up this week in games that they're going to want to win. The game Monday night was one of the great games that they've ever had on Monday nights. I sent Shula, I called Shula and left him a message. He's on the West Coast, and I said that if San Francisco had Garrow, I wouldn't be calling you this week. And I said, one thing about your team, you had a great special teams coach when you went undefeated. You know who their special teams coach was? Nobody knows this.
No, I wouldn't know.
It was Shula. He did the special teams work himself. He didn't have a special teams coach.
Ah, okay. Times were different back then, that's for sure.
He did a good job too.
Yeah,
sure they won the Pittsburgh game because of their special teams. Larry Seifel, the punter, executed a perfect fake punt that set up their winning touchdown. And they had Garrow, who was, I think, a Hall of Fame kicker. He never made it to the Hall, but he was great.
Yeah, there were some good times, good teams, good memories.
Well, there's only one team that still remains the only undefeated one.
Yeah. And now we're going to try to figure out who's going to the Super Bowl. Looks like, everybody thinks the Patriots will get out of the AFC. Do you think there's any competition there that they need to worry about? Baltimore is on a run, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think the Patriots are a perfect team. I think their offense has some issues. Their defense is very good. They have a game against Philadelphia this week that'll test them a little bit, although I'm not a big fan of the Philadelphia quarterback. And Belichick off a bye, 4-1 his last 5 times. He's got a spectacular record with 2 weeks to prepare. I think he's something like 8-1-1 over the last 10 years. Off a bye, he'll be ready for them.
We haven't seen much of Philadelphia this year, on big games and stuff. But what do you think of that team? Other than what you said,
I watch them a lot. I don't like the way Wentz has been playing. The secondary has been beat up and has not played all that well, and they've struggled at times. Their last 2 wins came against teams that weren't so great, and they've been kind of ordinary. There's a lot of people who have been unhappy with the quarterback play. He has not played well this year.
No, yes.
I've watched Philadelphia. I've watched all their games.
Well, what I meant was that they haven't been in prime time games very much. It's not that they haven't. We watch every game because they're all up on the satellite and everything. ESPN.
Well, they played. They've had a couple of high-profile games early in the year.
Oh, okay. Any other games this weekend you want to talk about? This big game.
Well, I want to talk about Jimmy V for a moment.
Okay.
The San Francisco quarterback. If they had to use a kicker who had not played a game this year, who they signed off the street because Robbie Gould was hurt. And had he made a very makeable field goal, San Francisco would still be undefeated and nobody would be criticizing Jimmy V because he got him in position for that field goal. He looked a little bit shaky at times, but remember, he lost when he had his top receiver in the game. The score was 10-0. The game turned when Sanders went out, and with the rib injury. And so he was missing Kittle, and he was missing his top wide receiving guy. He only had really Samuels left as a dependable receiver. Bourne dropped 3 passes on him. If he holds on to those passes, we're talking about San Francisco still being the team to beat. And by the way, they got to Wilson and caused a couple of 3 turnovers by him in the game. And in the end, after he lost his top receiver, he didn't look so hot throwing the ball either. And so he had to beat him with his feet in the overtime. And, he's having a great year, no question about it. But, when you lose the receivers who you depend on, it makes a big change in your game as a quarterback. And Jimmy V actually had to carry that team because, Basic came back, Busick came back, but he didn't play very much. He was supposed to be ready to go, and he didn't do much. And by the way, those 2 tackles who were coming off injury, boy, Clowney dominated the game. Clowney was the reason that Seattle won that game.
Clowney had a great game. I'm not critical of Jimmy G. He did lose his receivers. They never had Kittle in the game. And Sanders going out really hurt. And the wide receivers dropped a lot of passes. It was a great game. Mistakes on both sides, great play on both sides. It was probably the best game of the year so far to watch.
You know what? It was a sloppy game. There were a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties that shouldn't have occurred, a lot of dropped balls, and it was a very dramatic game, but it wasn't a very well played game for 2 top teams.
Well, there were mistakes, like I said. This week, Seattle's off. San Francisco's...
You know what was a great game? You wanted to put that game... People were talking about that game like it was the greatest Monday night game ever played. Great games are games like the Miami Chargers game. That was a fantastic game because that was a game played without mistakes. Just one great play after another. The college game on Saturday was a better game. That was a great game. Those two teams really went at it.
They sure did. They sure did. Well, we can always look forward to the Cincinnati-Oakland game, man. That should be a great game. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I know.
We do have a game in Mexico City. I don't know. I don't know what the field conditions are this year there. I mean, I've been trying to search and try to find out, but I'm not sure I'll be able to. I think that'll make a big difference whether the game will be a high scoring or not. Field conditions in Mexico in the past have been a problem, and they even had to cancel a game once.
Well, yeah, those are 2 teams that first of all, the Chargers aren't very good right now because their quarterback is beginning to look like just an old man, and Kansas City has very little defense. So, and Kansas City had a game that they should have won that they totally blew.
Yeah,
but the quarterback, and by the way, they had to settle for 4 field goals in the game. They couldn't get into the end zone enough. I don't look for that to happen against the Chargers, but it should be an entertaining game. They checked out the field, and they haven't had earthquakes or heavy rainstorms, so there would be no reason why the field wouldn't be playable. I don't know if they're playing a soccer game the day before or not, but I would doubt that they are going to make that same mistake again. There are other games this week that are going to be interesting to watch. For some reason, Indianapolis is favored over Jacksonville. You got Foles coming back for Jacksonville. I'm anxious to see what he's going to do. Dallas is going to be at Detroit. Dallas has to bounce back off 4 decisions from last week. I want to see what Drew Brees is going to do against Tampa Bay this week. They're in a bounce back situation. I want to see. I got some doubts about Buffalo right now. I don't know about that quarterback and how far he can take that team. Baltimore-Houston should be a great game. Yeah. Baltimore's at home. Watson's coming in there, getting points. I think Watson is every bit as good as the Baltimore quarterback. That should be a highly entertaining game. New England, Philadelphia, of course, is a game. And I want to see what the Rams do against the Bears. All of a sudden, Trubisky isn't such a bad guy. He had 3 touchdown passes last week. And the Rams, I think, are in trouble.
Yeah, this year they don't have it together. The offensive line issues have been bad. Jared Goff got a lot of money in the offseason, Hank. I'm not too sure that was warranted.
Goff right now has somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 turnovers. And it's outrageous.
It is.
By the way, Cleveland's going against a Pittsburgh team that has 26 turnovers on defense. Good luck.
Yeah, this is a matchup of Kitchens against Tomlin, multiple Super Bowl team, young quarterback, 2 young quarterbacks in the game. Baker Mayfield his star has fallen quite a bit. A lot of his off the field antics and talks, and this is. I know they beat Buffalo last week, but I wasn't impressed with them. Pittsburgh is a grinder, and the games. They say it's a road game, but they're only like a 2-hour drive away. So it's really not that much in the road area.
Well, it's still not home. So Cincinnati will have a home crowd going for them. Or Pittsburgh, what did I say, Cincinnati? Cleveland has a huge home field advantage when it comes to crowd support.
Pittsburgh's had, over the years, better team, but Pittsburgh's had great success there in the past.
Well, they've had great teams.
Yeah, they have. Well, forcing 26 turnovers is pretty impressive, so that could probably play a big factor in this game. Game opened 3, it's down to 2.5, but there's a lot of juice on the 2.5 favoring Cleveland, so it's like a 2 3/4 line. 40.
Well, Cleveland has Hunt back, which between him and Chubb, I imagine they're going to see the ball a lot against Pittsburgh. I don't think that who knows what that coach is going to do. I don't want to predict that.
Yeah, he might bench people. Who knows? College basketball's been really good. A lot of great games. Got some good.
Well, you're going to have a change at the top in college basketball.
Oh yeah,
one of the big upsets ever. Evansville beating Kentucky last night, and Kentucky just. The coach said after the game that they just he didn't make excuses. Calipari just said they were outplayed, which they were, and so they are no longer number 1. Duke will be number 1 now. Duke scored 105 points last night, demolished the team they played, and so Duke, who was ranked number 2, moves into the number 1 spot. And, of course, you have the shakeup in the college football ranks with Ohio State still at the top. And, Clemson moved right in as expected. Mm-hmm. And you had Saban dropping out and probably having to settle for for a bowl game. You won't be in the playoff this year. And Minnesota has a game this week that could be a challenge for them against Iowa.
Yeah, very
and
much. Yeah,
they're getting points. Nobody wants to believe Minnesota.
No, nobody. Yeah, they were a dog last week against Penn State at home. They handled that pretty well. It was a good game. Yep, nobody's giving them credit. Should be interesting to see what happens for that fourth spot in the playoffs if everything holds true. Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, and then who do you
Oregon? Oregon's pretty close to the top right now. They're playing very well. Their quarterback Herbert is outstanding. They're well coached. A friend of mine from Miami is the coach there, and he's doing a good job with them. And except for their opening game loss against Auburn on the road, they're having a pretty good year, and they're going to want to have some say in how the Final Four shakes up at the end of the season. So, that committee might have a couple of tough choices to make when it's all over with.
I think they will. I mean, even Baylor's 9-0. Nobody talks about them.
Baylor's got a tough game this week.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, but I'll tell you something. I watched Oklahoma last week. They have no defense at all. And I didn't like the way their quarterback played. They're talking about Oklahoma and the coach maybe being the next coach in Dallas. I don't think he's done that great a job with that team this year. I don't like the way the quarterback has been inconsistent. He's made a lot of bad decisions, and although he's an exciting guy, but they can score points, but they have no defense.
Yeah, that's true. That conference is known for high scoring and very little defense, but
Colin Coward's talked about how Jerry Jones has had success with college coaches. He's trying to compare this guy to Jimmy Johnson, please, as Jimmy Johnson would say, please. Jimmy was exceptional. I mean, Jimmy came in, took over the whole organization, had all those great drafts, and put that team together. No college coach has ever come in, with the possible exception with the Alabama. Well, he was a failure in the pros. No college, I'm going to repeat that. No college coach has ever come into the NFL and had the success that Jimmy had.
No, that's
Came
true.
in and won a couple of Super Bowls and really rebuilt that organization from the bottom up and did it quickly.
The advantage of what you need to do that, you need to let the football people make the decisions, and a lot of these owners don't do that. They get in the way. The bad ownership like you have in Cleveland and Washington, it becomes a mess. And they're going to start Haskins for Washington this week in the NFL for the Redskins. I watched this guy play a number of times. He just doesn't look like he's ready to play in the NFL at this moment.
Yeah, well, they don't have a lot of choice right now.
Well, yeah, that's...
And they're not going anywhere, and they want to give him some experience and let him get his feet wet, which may or may not be a good thing. It was... if you want to make comparisons with the old Dallas teams, remember Troy Aikman's first year? I think he was 1-9.
I don't recall that, but yeah, that's an interesting number for sure. They do have to.
He won one game in his rookie year with Dallas.
Well, he certainly had a great career. Sometimes Haskins is a questionable draft choice. I mean, a lot of people didn't feel he was warranted that draft choice, but he's there.
Well, everybody was ripping Troy and ripping the draft pick in Dallas. They were very unhappy. Remember, he had to follow a legacy there that included some, starting with Meredith and going through the Navy guy, and they had great tradition with quarterbacks there. And here they took a guy from who had played for a couple of different college teams, and he came in, and he was awful his rookie year.
Yeah, that's true.
Now he's in the Hall.
Oh, definitely. He had a great career. Absolutely. Anything else you want to cover today? Anything with horses this week at all?
No, there's nothing going on with horses for a while. Oh, yeah, 2 more horses were euthanized at Del Mar this week. I guess, that's just a sad story. And there's a Del Mar meet going on for 3 more weeks. It's a Del Mar fall meet that has nothing important going on. There really isn't anything now until the Pegasus race in January.
Wow.
So I'm not really talking horses at all. There's some good college football games this week. You got Georgia Auburn. That'll be a big game because Georgia's, right now in the top 4. So Auburn has a chance to knock them off. So it's a home game for Auburn.
Yeah, that 4th position, if the top 3 hold service, so to speak, the 4th position is going to be quite interesting. Who gets that? But we'll have to see. Watch it play out. It'll be fun to handle and handicap these games, bet these games, make some money doing so. And we'll talk again Friday, Hank.
Okay, big game today in college basketball is Villanova, Ohio State. Be interested to watch that.
Well, I'm excited about it. I already have a little money on it, so it's going to be exciting to watch that. Yeah, that's a good one. Game opened 3 and 131. Ohio State home favored. Ranked 16th in the country. Villanova's 10th in the country. And the game went down to 2.5. Juice is still on the favorite, though. And the total came way down, 127, Hank. So they bet the total 4 points down. I guess they're looking for a pretty good defensive battle. And, makes sense. Makes sense a lot. All right, Hank, have a great day. We'll talk in a couple days.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, thanks.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, go to JimFeist.com for Hank's plays and mine, and you can register for a free play each and every day. It's right there on the website. And thanks for listening in.